We have some funny moments that have resurfaced and come out of some inappropriate things that were being said. We definitely need to talk about it. We also have some people saying that there have been a kissing moment that was maybe cut out of the Jimin and JK reality show. And we have Ticketmaster situation and how it applies to K-pop and BTS. So Dumplings, it's Dave Disci. Let's get into it. We need to start with the Ticketmaster situation. Now, if you're unsure of what's going on with this, then it's definitely something we need to get into. If you are someone who has any interest in ever buying concert tickets for either K-pop or any artist that you like, this is definitely a huge issue. So much so that in recent years it's been brought up to government officials, and it's something that's being investigated and looked into right now. Basically, what happens is Live Nation or Ticketmaster, they pretty much have a monopoly on the industry. So essentially, anytime you buy a ticket, you have to go through them. And anytime an artist needs to book a venue, the venues are likely either working with Ticketmaster, Live Nation, or have some association with them. So what ends up happening is these tickets then have to go on sale onto their platform. Now, Ticketmaster doesn't directly own the resellers or scalpers that tend to take all the tickets and then resell them at much higher rates. However, they often hold back tickets, which results in the ticket prices being inflated for secondary markets. And to be fair, they have tried to combat resellers and scalpers by having fan verification programs, where it's essentially a lottery. Scalpers and resellers have tried to combat that system by using the technology to bypass the system or to implement themselves in several places so they have a higher chance of winning the lottery. So a lot of people are upset because these scalpers and resellers drive up the price, but it's not entirely Ticketmaster or Live Nation's fault because they have implemented things to try to remedy that. It just doesn't work. These scalpers are very resourceful and intelligent. Now, recently someone did try to combat this, which is none other than the rising star of Chaperone. She recently had a concert and she ended up going through to see who was a bot and who wasn't, and she essentially canceled their tickets, and then now is just going to release a limited amount of tickets to the people that actually want to be there. And I don't know if she and her team are then going to individually try to approve people to make sure that they're real and that they're people and not bots, but this is apparently going to be the best way to do it. People are taking note of this, and there's even this conversation going around right now of if K-pop companies and labels are essentially going to try to mimic this process in order to avoid this whole crazy ordeal that's going on with ticket sales. And I'm not trying to bash any label or anything like that, but the likelihood of a label participating in this process is going to be very low. This process, at least from my understanding, would require the label or the artist's team to try to go through all of the tickets and cancel the bots and just spend a lot more time doing that. So a big company is not going to attempt to spend money to do this. I just don't think that they would have enough care to do this. They would probably try to get the government involved, and the government takes forever to do anything. So that's my first theory. And then the second one is just this idea that smaller companies tend to take action faster. They don't have to run through this process of politics and bureaucracy of a company. They can just kind of take action. Chaperone is not part of a label. She is completely independent. And if she sees something wrong, she can just take action immediately. Whereas a label or a big company will not. They probably will take years before they implement something like this. By that time, the government might have already taken action. If you're unaware, big companies often do not like to adapt and change. They often like to just do whatever is working and try to do that for as long as possible. And they often change when it's too late, and that's why the bigger the company, the less relatable and more out of touch they become. But it's not all doom and gloom here. We also have some funny, cute moments that have come out recently. This idea of mistranslated words and funny, cute moments that we misunderstand has been a long-standing joke and conversation as international fans are enjoying foreign content. And that means oftentimes what the artist says and what they post about, we're going to misunderstand when it's not in English. Some of the funniest ones were just moments where you had Suga coming back from his shoulder surgery, and he talked about his breasts becoming magnificent. Well, he didn't actually even say that it was his, he just said that there were some breasts. What he meant by this was actually that he felt his heart was magnificent, or that it grew and it was translated into something very different. I'm hoping that translation becomes a lot better as we move into this new era of BTS, as now we have the information of AI and ChatGPT, so they can then take those words and then translate it into AI, and the AI can kind of take and piece together what the BTS members might have meant. There was actually another moment that ended up trending globally, and if not globally, definitely widely within the K-pop community, where both Jimin and V said something very inappropriate and sexual and something about them being in bed. Clearly the translation, when you look at it, doesn't really make much sense, but it's just that line is quite insane to see the BTS BTS members say. They were talking about eating a specific food, specifically caramel, and they were talking about how much they love like sticky candy. However, it got translated into this moment where they were talking about something that might be about receiving for a gay couple. This was absolutely hilarious. People were definitely shocked by this. It's one thing if someone translated this quote and then just went super viral because the person had translated it wrong, but it was if you clicked on the translate button on Weverse and it translated this. So you're seeing this message come from an official source on an official website from the official artist, and it says this. These are moments that people like to re-talk about and resurface ever so often because it's just a funny thing. So of course it's not something that the artist actually says themselves, but it's just so funny how translations can be. And I'm wondering if translations ever translate like that from English to another language, if it translates that badly, because partly the way we interpret language is very sexual, and in other countries, especially more conservative ones, it's not so much. So a lot of these things that we interpret as sexual might just kind of be normal for everyday lingo for a lot of other countries. Now, after the recent Are You Sure episode came out, there's definitely been a lot of talks about romantic relationships. Some people feel like the episodes are growing in romance and that eventually it's going to just flat out show the members having a romantic relationship with each other, or that they will eventually come out. And recently things have gotten a little crazier, at least the rumors and the conversation has gotten a little crazier. As both the members head to Sapporo, Japan, fans have always felt that when all the BTS members go to Japan, that they are more respected. First of all, I think Japan has stricter laws for things like stalking and paparazzis, so I think that they just feel more comfortable doing that. They feel like they wouldn't be so easily exposed if they were to act in any type of way. Now, there was a moment where you saw both Jimin and JK kind of leaning on each other after arriving to Sapporo, Japan, and they were like, we made it and whatever, and then we saw a picture of JK putting his head onto Jimin's shoulder. This turned into a huge dating rumor, as a lot of people were saying that this is not something that two brothers would do. There's even people going as far as to say that there has to be clips off camera or an extended version of this clip that shows that the two members are kissing or being romantic. And someone must have video footage of this. The thing is, if this happened, someone would have video footage of this. And this is something that I think the community doesn't often realize, is that if the ships were so huge and it was something that they couldn't hide because they're so in love with each other and they must all be all over each other all the time, then there would be footage of this. They are global celebrities. They will get recognized everywhere they go, and there's people recording them everywhere they go, yet we don't have one clip of them kissing each other on the lips or making out or doing something romantic. Even clips in which we see the boys out at a restaurant eating together, there's still never any clips of them kissing, holding hands, or making out. All of it is just speculation. I've said so before and I'll say it again, I have no problem with the speculation. I have no problem with the fact that people want to think this, or they want to talk about this, or they want to believe this. I think a lot of these channels ship people together and they talk about it and they make content about that. I think that's really cute. I love that they make videos like that. But when you're using a ship to attack another person or another group or another part of the community, that's when I draw the line. A lot of people now are using this idea of Jimin and JK being romantically involved as an opportunity to attack V and JK and their shipping community. And I've talked about at length and how some people in that community can sometimes go rogue and be really horrendous and send death threats and do awful things, but I'm still sticking up for them by saying that no community deserves threats or attacks. And I think it's fine, again, to have any sort of fantasy and to believe whatever you want to believe. But when it exceeds that and it turns into an insulting game or it turns into death threats, isn't that the most insane thing? Two people in two different communities could have a fight back and forth with each other for many years, which could then result in one of them hating a BTS member and then eventually resulting in the BTS members getting death threats over the BTS member not doing anything. Like, these people would drag a BTS member into their own personal drama. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you. Bye.